Learning. It allows us to predict the future on the basis of the past. We acquire the meanings of things that matter to us. 3 aspects of learning. 1. Classical conditioning. 2. Operant conditioning. 3. Limits to conditioning. 1. Classical conditioning. Ivan Pavlov. Salivation reflex, or conditioned reflex, in dogs. He discovered how the mouth of dogs provokes specific salivation, which starts the process by which food is decomposed and then digested. And how even seeing the person that brings the food would drive the salivation and release the chemicals in your stomach. E.g. unconditioned stimulus-food. Unconditioned response-salivating. Then if you want to teach something related to food, you can do the following. Unconditioned stimulus-ring a bell, before you give him food. Then, after a lot of trials, the conditioned response is salivation when the dog hears the bell ring. So, conditioning let us predict the future on based of the past, bell-food-salivation. And we acquire the meaning of things, bell- means that food is coming. Even if it's a similar tone, the dog think food is coming. So, it's not that the dog learns a precise thing. But, as the tone gets more and more different, the response gets weaker and weaker. Also, if the bell continues to ring and no food arrives, the learning gets weakened and disappears. But, once it's extinguished, and if for example, you ring the bell 3 months later, and you give him food, he would start remembering the same process again. Second order conditioning. If you ring the bell, but don't give him food for a while, he will start losing this knowledge. But if you suddenly put a black square near his plate of food, and then ring the bell, and now you give him the food, he will start associating the black square and the ring at the same time, to predict that food is coming. So now the black square is the second order conditioning, which will produce the salivation as well. Operant conditioning, or instrumental conditioning. Thorndike. He put a cat into a box. The cat unlatches the door by pulling a latch. The cat learned it by trial and error. But, where is the unconditioned stimulus? Thorndike proposed, people and animals learn things by the consequence of their response. And, the law of effect says that consequence of response determines whether it's strengthened or weakened. Reward equals strengthened. No reward equals weakened. Punishment equals very weakened. At the beginning, it's really difficult to get out of the cage. But every trial, the cat gets out faster and faster. Press the latch equals strengthened. Scratch the bars, dig, etc., equals weakened. John Watson. A behaviorist, the study of behavior, equals observable actions, not the mind. Stimuli, environment, response, behavior. Little Albert experiment. Watson thought he could teach anything to anybody. And he used Albert to prove this point. He used Albert to be afraid of a rabbit, that he previously was not afraid of. B.F. Skinner. Consequence equals response. He also claimed that you can teach anything to anybody. Primary reinforcers. Food, thirst, pain. Secondary reinforcers. Money, attention, promotion, praise. Positive reinforcement equals increase behavior. Negative reinforcement equals decrease behavior. And he also claimed there's no free will, we are only learning these things. Partial reinforcement. If you reward a person 100% of the time, they'll stop doing it. If you reward them 30% of the time, they will keep doing it, because they always think, I'm going to win the next time. Seligman, learned helplessness. 2 dogs. Dog 1 gets shocks, but if he presses a lever, it stops the shocks. Dog 2 gets shocks, but he has no lever, so he can't stop the shocks. As a result, dog 1 learned that pain happens, but he can do something about it. And dog 2 learned that life is painful and can't do anything about it. And even if in the second trial they put a lever so the pain could stop, the dog doesn't try to stop the shocks. Animals learn from the first experience, and their conclusion would be the result of it. This leaves us with the question. How do we explain those difficulties that happens to us? It's internal or external to us. It's global or specific. It's stable or unstable. People who believe things are internal, global, and stable equals learn to be helpless. People who believe things are external, specific, and unstable equals learn to be resilient. Limits to conditioning. Preparedness. If you see a picture of a snake/spider, you intuitively prepare like something is about to happen. Latent learning. We always learn simply to get a reward. Contingency. People think they get a reward when they have control over their environment and their pleasure. Reward value. If you get paid $100 per week, but 6 weeks later you only get paid $50, you will feel worse than the person who's been winning $50 during the same period of time. Delayed gratification. Do good in primary equals you go to a good middle school. Do good in middle equals you go to a good high school, and so on. E.g. Walter Mischel. Kids of 4 to 5 years old. He put a marshmallow on a table. And he told the kid that he would leave the room for a while. If he wanted to eat the marshmallow, he only needed to ring a bell and eat it. Or, if he waited some time, 15 minutes, he would give him 2 marshmallows. The kids who only waited 30 seconds, vs the kids who waited the 15 minutes. When they looked at them at 18 and their sats. The kids who waited the 15 minutes, scored over 200 points higher. So, the longer you waited at age 4 to 5 equals the further you went to school, better health, better SAT score, etc. When reward harm. Rats run in a wheel for fun. But, if you give them food every time they run the wheel, they will no longer run for fun, they'll just run for food. If you make something that you should love, purely by the reward, the minute the reward stops, it becomes a complete chore. Is language learning a conditioned skill? Babies at 1 month of ages, prefer the language they're exposed to. And we know there's some genetic predisposition to learn language, but also there's a lot of learning from the environment.